One of the most important races in crypto land right now when it comes to politics is, of course, John Deaton against Senator Warren. We'll break that down for you guys today. It's going to be a good one. We have a special guest that you don't want to miss. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is Coinbase. If you're looking at long-term holding of your crypto assets, you can do that also over on Coinbase. And the cool thing is with Coinbase, this is one of the most trusted platforms out there in terms of getting involved in crypto. Maybe it's your first time to do an exchange purchase. Check out Coinbase.com, and of course, make sure and use our link down below. You can get up to $200 in crypto just by trying it out and seeing if it works out for you guys. It does help the channel, so check it out, Coinbase.com. I want to go into a couple of clips here. Actually, I've got one clip I want to play, and then we'll get into some details. As you guys know, we've had James Murphy on before, MetaLawMan. Here, of course, is James right there with the infamous John Deaton on his win as the Republican candidate that will be going head-to-head against none other than Senator Warren. And I want to play a clip on some podcasts. Now, this is more of the local news media there within Massachusetts. And I want to play this clip to get into some framework of where this race stands right now. Take a look.
Obviously, you want to win. What's wrong with John Deaton and John Deaton's politics?
3, maybe 4 crypto billionaires recruit him to run for the Republican nomination. And they put $2.5 million into ads to get him the Republican nomination. The other 2 Republicans didn't have that kind of money. So now he's got that seat, and now the crypto billionaires are hoping maybe they'll have a chance to pick me off, and that means that they will get rid of someone who is not always on board with the things that they want to be able to do. I get what the crypto billionaires are trying to do here, but understand, if they get John Deaton elected, the consequence of that will be in a 50-50 Senate that the Republicans take control.
Right. So, I mean, you know, hey, elections have consequences, and today we're going to discuss that with none other than Mr. MetaLawMan himself, James Murphy. Great to have you back in.
Great to be on with you, Paul.
Yeah, so thanks for coming in today. So, James, I want to pick up a clip here. This is our second clip that is showing Elizabeth Warren kind of giving a little bit more heat on John Deaton. Take a look.
When you think about greater regulation of cryptocurrency, is the goal of that regulation to make it viable and thriving, or to disable it and eventually sort of drag it into the bathroom and drown it in the bathtub?
No. So look, I don't have any problem. People want to buy and sell crypto. My concern is about how it's used by terrorists. For example, you know, the ransomware. Do you know what portion of ransomware is paid off with crypto?
No.
100%. If you put restrictions in place on crypto so that it can't be used in that way, the whole business model for that kind of scamming literally falls away. And now the question is, can crypto buy this seat?
So interesting statements there. I want to kind of get your opinion on the way that Warren, it appears to me, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, that she seems to be softening slightly on crypto. Not necessarily, I think she still has her agenda, but what are your thoughts based on her statements there?
Well, it's interesting. She really doesn't want to lose her power. And that's, I think, what this is all about. She's repeated a number of things that are factually not correct, talking about John being recruited. He was not recruited. It was really the last thing he wanted to do, is to get involved in politics. He's a businessman and a lawyer and successful, but he felt like he had no choice with freedom, really, at risk in this election. And Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler's policies have really set the country back in terms of innovation. And it's interesting to hear Senator Warren saying she has no problem with buying and selling of cryptocurrencies. Well, her deputy in the anti-crypto army is doing everything possible to shut down the trading of crypto on exchanges, and the evidence is clear. Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, all of them, Bittrex, every single platform, Robinhood have been sued, and now they're going on to other targets. So it's clear that it is a whole of government approach to choke off the crypto industry. And I think the good news Paul, is that this is not a left-right issue. The
Right.
thing that terrifies Elizabeth Warren more than anything is that this group of Crypto for Harris is supporting Deaton, many of them. And so you are finding Kamala Harris voters who are recognizing the damage that the policies of Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler has created in this country, and they're voting for Deaton.
Do you think, James, that this is maybe the first time that she has come to realization? Maybe it was a situation where she did not think he would win the nomination to go into the ballot. Is this maybe her first realization? Oh, this is serious now.
Could be. It's really kind of a fascinating story, Paul, that, John was completely unknown entering politics. He's never held elected office in his life, and he was running against in the Republican primary an elected official on the Quincy City Council and another well-known figure in Republican circles in Massachusetts. And he came in and won 65% of the vote. I think that I was optimistic. I think everybody was optimistic that John would win, but the 65% was quite a statement.
Yeah, it was.
Particularly remember the elected official had an endorsement from Senator Lummis in Wyoming, and he got less than 10%. So the people spoke. The grassroots people in Massachusetts have heard John's message and the backstory of his life, and they've really embraced him.
Yeah, I think so. The radio host who went after, I didn't say went after Warren, but gave her some hard questions. And of course, Warren, I think, backed off that position. I want to play the response because they also invited John in to make some statements around this. And he fact checks her, of course, as he often does. But I want to play this clip for you.
And now they think they're going to buy the seat for him.
Respond.
She's focused on crypto. Let me ask the viewers, the listeners out there, why did the senior senator from Massachusetts, when she announced her reelection, focus on crypto and say she was building an anti-crypto army? Here's something else that your producer can fact check. Less than 1% of Bitcoin and crypto is used for illicit purposes. You want to know the number one illicit enterprise? The banks. She didn't ask Jamie Dimon those types of questions.
Jamie Dimon is J.P. Morgan Chase CEO. The senator, looking at the bill that she has out, is looking at reducing anonymity and providing the same financial regulations or strict financial
That's actually not what that bill does, by the way.
institutions.
I can come back and I can tell you what that bill actually does. It's a ban on self-custody of Bitcoin. I have a Coinbase account, and my campaign accepts crypto, just like Vice President Harris is doing now as well, through the Coinbase platform. Do you know I had to wait 4 days for them to do all of their KYC AML on me and my campaign, even though I'd already had a previous
And you don't think it should be looser than that?
No, what I'm saying is that Hamas had actually issued a directive to not use crypto because it was too traceable. The NSA, the FBI, the CIA have all come out and said that they hope criminals use Bitcoin. It's an open distributed ledger.
Okay.
So, he's kind of preaching to the choir there. I think John is on his soapbox, so he's definitely got a position. But there are a lot of things that Senator Warren is going to go at him against in the debate, which is coming up. And of course, I know he's calling for a lot of single issue debates to cover that. And if you look at that along with just the amount of money that both are in a position with right now, what is your position right now when you look at both what John Deaton has been able to do and also the war chest of Senator Warren, whether or not she can hold off this attempt to take that seat?
Well, it's clearly a tough road for John in a long shot, but anything worth doing is often very difficult. And this is going to be very difficult, but the momentum is certainly on John's side. Elizabeth Warren has a huge war chest because she's in charge right now and has the power. And so the lobbyists, the banks, and all of them understand that they, need to feed her campaign dollars to make sure she's still in there fighting for them. Whereas John is fighting for the poor and the working poor have been devastated by two things: immigration, illegal immigration into Massachusetts, and the incredible level of inflation. And Massachusetts is particularly hard hit. So he's fighting for the people at the bottom who are fighting to get a piece of the American dream, which is what John represents, what his life represents. I don't know if you've read his book, Food Stamp Warrior, but it's amazing. The difficulties, the extreme poverty, violence, abuse in his household that he overcame, became a United States Marine, became a successful businessman and lawyer. It's a remarkable story. And when you read it, you think American dream. And John does not want the American dream to die for people who are coming up in the same kind of circumstances that he lived in. And so I would say this is a very, very different kind of Republican.
So with that being the case, because this is may be a much closer race than I think a lot of people think, and you look at the debates, do you feel like John could win over some of those voters that could typically fall on the side of supporting Warren? What do you think his shot is right there?
Well, we know that is happening. I was in Boston wearing a Deaton for Senate shirt, and people were coming up to me and saying, I have never in my life voted for a Republican, but I'm for Deaton. We really need to get Elizabeth Warren out because she is out of touch with the challenges we're facing. And most of them talk about how immigration, illegal immigration, has disrupted their communities so thoroughly, and they bear the brunt of it. Remember, it's not the 1%ers who are hurt by illegal immigration. It's the people at the bottom who depend on help from the government and, use the facilities provided by state and local government that are now being taken over in community after community in Massachusetts by illegal immigrants. So your question about the debates, we're all just looking forward to it. These are two really, really smart lawyers. So I think we're going to have a real great debate at hopefully a high level of sophistication where we really hear about the issues.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, James. I mean, Warren is notorious for never really getting to the point, and often has an agenda that is so set in stone that it's pretty much, oblivious of any real fact. Okay, so two things potentially have to happen here for John. One is most likely he's going to have to get a support from Fairshake. Do you think that's likely to happen for an endorsement?
I don't know. I think that now that John won the nomination so resoundingly, I think they need to take another look at it. But I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't think John's counting on it. He's counting on the grassroots people of Massachusetts understanding what is at stake here, because freedom is really on the ballot. Elizabeth Warren is pro-censorship. She's pro-government surveillance. She's pro-bigger government in every instance where there was a contest between growing government power and siding with the regular American. She always sides with growing government power. And that's a real problem, because as the government grows and gets more powerful, we slowly, hopefully just slowly, lose our rights that are God-given but guaranteed by the United States Constitution. And that's really, I think, a primary motivator for John getting into this race and exposing himself and his family to the attacks that he is seeing. He's a Marine. He can take it. But still, at the same time, it isn't fun.
And I know, it looks to me like, it's clear, I think, that the Republican side of Massachusetts is going to be voting in. Obviously, this is a blue state, so he is going to have to turn a lot of Democrats onto his way of thinking and get him into a position where he can go head-to-head with Warren. So that is yet to be seen, though that we will now see an open election on this, and I think the question will be the debate. Do you think the debate is going to be the pivotal point for him to win?
I think so. I mean, right now he's way behind in fundraising. And so he cannot fund the barrage of commercials
Yeah.
that Elizabeth Warren will be funding against John. So these debates are really, really critical. We're all looking forward to it. You made a good point about Elizabeth Warren's ability to kind of dodge and not be pinned down. But remember, we have a lawyer here whose skill set includes cross-examination.
That may be the one thing on his side right there, is that he understands cross-examination.
That's right.
It's like Josh Hawley. He usually is a pretty good, griller, even though he has his own agendas. I'm not a Josh Hawley fan, but I like his attack often as he tries to set up. It's very lawyer-like. So we'll see how this, if anything, it's going to be great entertainment for how this is going to play on a political standpoint. U.S. senators urging this. I want to get your opinion on this. The U.S. senators urged the CFTC to finalize the ban on election betting. Now, this is coming in after we've seen a lot of movement on Polymarket. Let me zoom in on that so you can see some of the statements there. But a letter was signed by these senators, including Elizabeth Warren, going after Polymarket, which again is it's a predictive market out there. We've seen everybody from CNN to TYT, both left-leaning, broadcast organizations start to jump in this in terms of analyzing this. But this gets into the CFTC, and this is something that I want to pay attention to, because we look at the CFTC in our research quite a bit, and I'm beginning to feel that this may be a dark horse in the race that may be a lot more anti-crypto than we have anticipated in the past. What is your opinion?
Well, in general, I've liked the testimony that I've heard from the chairman of the CFTC, particularly when he goes against Gary Gensler. I think he's been a very effective advocate. I think some of these recent enforcement actions are a little disappointing, and that's why you see dissents from the other CFTC commissioners, just like you see on the other side at the SEC, Hester Peirce, with those brilliant dissents that she submits. So the CFTC is going to be a player, and I think, if you think about that market structure bill that was passed in the House, that gave a lot of power to the CFTC over digital assets. And I generally think that is a good thing. So as far as them outlawing a predictive market, my view is that Congress should be deciding issues like this.
Yes.
And it certainly shouldn't start off with an enforcement action to prevent this from happening. They have no rules to apply to this question. And so, regulation by enforcement is not good by any agency. The SEC has kind of mastered it, and we don't want to see that at the CFTC either.
Interesting. I have a clip here. This is CNN officially using Polymarket, which blows my mind to see this, but let me play this clip.
Polymarket is one online prediction market where people can use cryptocurrency to place bets on sports, politics, and more. Ahead of Tuesday's showdown, 28% of people think the two candidates will shake hands. And as for what the candidates will say, abortion and Project 2025 are among the top words or phrases people are betting Harris will bring up. And there's also McDonald's, of course, along with border czar, Marxist, and Comrade Kamala, all titles Trump has used to attack Harris on the trail.
It's interesting to see CNN showing stats on a crypto-related betting facility out there from these predictive markets. And you've got one of the most left-leaning media outlets out there. And of course, TYT, same thing. I mean, we've seen Shank out there doing the same thing in terms of promoting what's happening. Do you feel like this has become so bipartisan in the sense that we're getting so much activity from both left and right that this really could put Senator Warren at risk, and that's why we're seeing her a little bit sensitive to this whole issue?
That's a good question. As I was seeing your list there, Paul, I was thinking about the fact that it is legal in the United States to bet on how long it will take to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, as well as, is the opening flip going to come up heads or tails? We don't have to place our money on this. We don't have to place money on the lottery, but should we be making it illegal? That Polymarket obviously is not available to
Yeah.
U.S. residents at this time. But is Elizabeth Warren concerned? She should be concerned. And again, I go back to, you have no idea, or maybe you do, how terrifying it is for her to see all of these crypto for Harris people like Anthony Scaramucci, who is, a powerful advocate for Kamala Harris, saying, I'm for Deaton. He was one of the first people to contribute to Deaton's campaign. I think on the day the website opened, he was there because he sees the damage that Warren has done to this country and that it needs to end. And there's a lot of them like that. And this is what terrifies her.
Yeah, well, one of her henchmen, we'll call, or partners in crime, of course, is Gary Gensler, and the construction, I think, and destruction that he's done. But the construction of a position against crypto has been pretty significant. Here's a clip talking about what's about to happen in the Senate. This is actually the first time we'll get a chance to see this, but take a look.
Hopefully, he's gone a step too far. A definition that we have been using at the chamber is consumptive use NFTs. They're intended to be used like baseball cards, like Pokemons that can collect and trade and hold and play with and hang up on their wall. They are not financial products. They do not look anything like a financial product or security. And Gary Gensler just wants to chill innovation. I think crypto will be a big part of the hearing. September 24th in the House is what we're hearing, and September 25th in the Senate. I think we're going to see more bipartisan calls forever for the SEC to change its stance. And there was a whole congressional hearing on this where, if you haven't seen it, Congressman Richie Torres goes through, do you think this, a Pokemon card, is a security? Do you think a baseball card is a security? I think we will see more, and I think we'll see them in the Senate as well, which we have, those conversations have really been dominated by Elizabeth Warren in the past.
So Cody Carbone there of the Digital Chamber talking about Mr. Gary Gensler putting in a Wells notice over to OpenSea. And what they're referencing, of course, for those of you out there that maybe don't even know about that case, is that we're dealing with something that is into digital collectibles, which reside on OpenSea, very similar to that of real world collectibles. And if you look at that position and also that statement there, the Wells notice, in your opinion, James, was this just another fishing expedition, or was this a strategic, shot across the bow?
It's interesting. There's so much talk about a reset of crypto policy by the Biden-Harris administration, and we're not seeing it.
We haven't seen it. Yeah.
This is going out to the outer limits of even Gary's imagination of what could possibly be a security. And, what's interesting, what Cody was talking about of collectibles, SEC lawyers have said in court to federal judges, we have no interest, no intent to go after the collectibles market, because the defendants were saying the logic of what they're saying here in court, Your Honor, is it applies equally to collectibles and digital collectibles. And they're like, that's ridiculous.
No, yeah,
you don't have to worry about us going after Pokemon cards. But now what you have on OpenSea is the digital representation of collectibles. And so they're doing exactly what they told federal judges they would not do. But this isn't the first time, of course. So, yes, I think there are going to be a lot of good questions in Congress. We now have champions in both the House and the Senate who really will hold Gary's feet to the fire. But this is just real overstepping of authority to make a statement. And by the way, there may be just a little bit of a political play here as well. In the event Gary is removed as chairman and removed from the commission, if there's a change in administration, he will have already started up all of these cases, and left them in the lap of the successor administration to deal with. So that's going to be interesting. And my view is that this OpenSea thing is way beyond anything imagined in the securities laws, and is not fairly deducible from the Howey test, in my view.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we only have 56 days left here before the election, so we'll get a chance to see how a lot of things are playing out. There's a couple of tweets I wanted to get to. This, of course, is you out there talking about Kamala Harris here and her policy position on her website, or lack thereof, I should say, when it comes to digital assets. When you look at this right now, do you think that Harris will even mention crypto in the debate? Or I'm sure that Trump is most likely going to mention. What you think she will?
I don't think she will, my guess is spontaneously, but if Trump brings it up, I have to believe she's prepared with some kind of answer. But what we're dealing with now is the official Democratic platform was 91 pages long and did not mention crypto or digital assets. And last night, Sunday evening, she posted for the first time her policy positions on a number of important issues, and crypto, digital assets, Bitcoin, blockchain, mining,
Right.
none of that was anywhere to be found. And so those who have been assuring the crypto community that there's really a pivot happening among the Harris part of the Biden-Harris administration really have no evidence now to support that idea.
If she were to pivot, do you think there would be enough support from the crypto community that would say, okay, she's going to pivot now, I'm going to go ahead and vote this direction? Or do you think that it is not necessarily going to be the case?
I think she has some voters who are in the crypto industry or familiar with the crypto industry, but I think to say something in terms of a policy is not going to move votes. To do something, if she,
what could she do, James?
She could tell President Biden to ask Gary Gensler for his resignation. It's not a firing. If you ask for a resignation, the person heading an agency or cabinet secretary doesn't get to say, no, I'm good, I think I'll stay. When the president says, give me your resignation, they submit their resignation. So that could be done. A number of other things could be done. They could simply recognize that there is an Operation Choke Point 2.0 trying to strangle the crypto industry and apologize for it and explain how they're going to reverse that. The Caitlin Long denial of a master account for her Custodia Bank is crazy, and it's in litigation now and makes no sense. Her business model is the safest banking business model you or I have ever heard of. You don't lend out the deposits at all, and you cover the deposits for more than 100% in reserves. So it makes no sense.
That breaks the banking industry if that gets through. You know that.
Well, so she will make revenue through fee for services, to send wires or whatever, and they'll compete on price, because she is not getting a net interest margin between the interest she pays on deposits and the interest she receives on lending out those deposits. So the banks will have a fair opportunity to compete.
Right. I love that. A fair opportunity. Here was another tweet by you, and a surprise absolutely to no one. It turns out Schumer is not interested in passing crypto legislation this year. So ignore what they say, watch what they do. We saw Schumer do a cameo, I feel like, was his position on the Crypto for Harris event that was held. And I wasn't a believer that he would even have done it. I'm assuming that was done as a favor to Mark Cuban, is my only thinking that was even why it was mentioned. But obviously this gets a big zero again. Do you think we're going to get any regulation passed this year? I know we only have like another 45 days of, the House and the Senate to be in session. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll get one possibly?
Extremely unlikely. I mean, this Senator Schumer is the traffic cop for what goes through the Senate and what gets considered and what gets voted on.
Right.
So he's saying that's not going to happen, that he's put out a letter with his priorities, and there's not much time left anyway. And it's a very complex issue. A market structure bill for a new market is a very complex undertaking. So I think what we need to do is think about how the House and the Senate are going to be constituted next year. And hopefully there's enough people who are sensible and knowledgeable about how crypto works and blockchain works, that we can have legislation that protects customers and gets the fraud out of crypto. Because we all know there is fraud in crypto. That's why we want regulation.
Sure.
Elizabeth Warren opposes regulation. She wants Gary Gensler to just pick and choose victims and bankrupt them or force them out of the United States. And so that's not
it just
how
creates such a disarray in the market. You know, lack of regulation, which starts to weaken the system, the infrastructure of the businesses that support it. All of that starts into play. Listen, if you guys want to change that, there's one way to do it. You can go over to John Deaton for Senate and, of course, contribute to John's effort in his attempt to dethrone the leader of the anti-crypto army, and that's, of course, with Elizabeth Warren. Listen, James, it's always fun to have you on the show. Thank you. We do appreciate your insights and really understanding this market. So thank you again for all the work you're doing and support. We do appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, Paul. It's always great being on with you.
You bet. All right. So you guys are tuned in maybe on the podcast side of things. Make sure and jump in over on the YouTube channel. And by the way, go ahead and subscribe right now. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. If you do want to catch some of our live stream, just hit the little bell. It'll notify you when we do those things. You can get in our Diamond Circle, which is our private member group. It's very easy. We always leave a link down below, so check that out. And of course, follow me on X. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.